Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And today I'm going to be making an herbal soak for my toe. And so I wanted to share with you this recipe. And if you haven't been following me on Facebook, a few days ago, actually it's been probably about 4 or 5 days ago, I broke my middle toe. And it was a toe that I had previously broken years before with a combination of smacking it on something one night and then the next day putting on my point shoes and dancing on the tips of my toes when because I had point class that next day. And it wasn't broken before I put on my point shoes, but I think I must have cracked it when I smacked it on something, and then I didn't realize it until I actually took my point shoe off, and my toe, I watched it swell up and just go crooked right before my eyes when that happened, because it was when it's constricted in the shoe. It's, you know, the point shoe, your foot is in there so tightly that I wouldn't have felt it actually break. So anyway, then I didn't have all these methods that I have now, but I think because that toe had already previously been broken, I didn't think I actually smacked it this hard this time around, but it was enough that I re-broke it, and boy, it hurt something fierce. And I really didn't think at first I broke it until later after I'd mowed the lawn. It was getting more and more sore, and I took off my boot, and sure enough, yep, yeah, it was pretty bad. But I started doing this, just kind of came up with this idea on my own, always looking at things that I already have on hand, and started doing this soak, and it worked amazingly well. My toe is still in the process of healing. Today is actually June 4th that I'm shooting this video, and I think it was May 31st or June 1st that I broke it, one of those days. So yeah, you'll be seeing this video about 3-4 weeks later. However, I want to go ahead and share this recipe with you. This should be good for, and I'll give you some variations to go with it as well. This should be good for not just breaks, but sprains and bruises for hands and feet. So this is obviously going to be more for feet. So let's get to it, and I'll show you what we got going on. Okay, so here you see I got a basin. I actually just got this. I used to always use an old Dutch oven. My feet are small enough to go in one of those. However, because, you know, but I don't know what happened to it. And I decided, especially with the toe, because it needed more, you know, it needs plenty of room. I decided to go ahead and just buy a cheap little thing here. I got this one from Amazon. It was a good price, and it seems to be made well. Yes, it's plastic. I think it's going to be hard to find a good basin that's not, but you know, that's not going to cost you a whole lot of money. But anyway, this is what I've got. So what I want to do is I'm going to start off with some Epsom salts, and since it's just for my toe and not my ankle, I'm not going to be making this really big. If I was going to be soaking my ankle, boy, I tell you, I wish I would have had these recipes. You know, all I know now about herbs and stuff back when I was teaching dance and martial arts and always spraining toes and fingers and had wrists and ankles. But anyway, so I'm not making a huge batch, but I'm going to put in about 1/4 cup or so of the Epsom salts. So magnesium in the Epsom salts is really important for helping to speed up healing. And then I'm going to add in one pan, about 1 quart or so of my water. So this is just room temperature water I've got right now. Okay. And now I'm going to fill my pan up again, which you can't even see. Not that it matters, so I'll move all this out of the way so you can see it. And I'm not filling it up to the top. I'm just filling it up most of the way. So let's set that aside. And you might want to get a spoon to stir the Epsom salts around in there. They will dissolve. But one of the things, the first thing I want to do is I got a big batch here of comfrey that I harvested. I'm harvesting the tops because I'm trying to get it to bush out more. And what I don't use right now, I'm going to be putting on my dehydrator for future uses in soaps and salves and in doing soaks like this. So comfrey is one of those things that it's called knit bone or bone knit. I usually call it bone knit, but knit bone is one of the things it's called because it actually does help heal broken bones as well as bruises and sprains. And so this is one of the big things that you really want to have on hand. And I would say cut up and use at least 1/4 to 1/2 cup of your fresh herbs. And then if you don't have fresh, if it's maybe a different time of the year, you can use dried. I've got some dried comfrey here. This is from this year, so I'm just started filling up this jar. And I would say at least 1/4 cup of that. And then obviously if you're gonna be, doing a sprain, like a sprained ankle, everything, you're probably gonna want to increase it just a little bit more, because you're gonna need to fill your basin up higher in order to soak that sprain. Okay, so I'm just going to chop this up. Okay, and I'll go the other way here. You can tear it. A lot of times I just tear it up, but it's easier and quicker to get smaller pieces. I think it works better if you chop it. And I'm going to put it in this pot of water right here. And the leaves are what you want. Since I had to harvest these tops, I'm going to go ahead and throw in some flowers too, just because it makes it look a little prettier. Okay. Now, one of the options I recommend is some calendula. I've got dried calendula here. This is from 2017. My calendula, since it's only June 4th, it hasn't started blooming yet. It's got a ways to go. Same thing with my lavender. It's actually got buds, but it's not blooming yet. But lavender would be a good option, especially if you're looking for something that's more antifungal and disinfectant, but also to add a nice scent to it. But the calendula is also very healing for bruises and sprain. Well, I'm not sure about sprains, but bruising. It's really good for bruising, which I do have bruising on my toe for certain. So I'm putting that in there. And now some other options to help with bruising or to help with sprains would be adding some eucalyptus oil. I would say for something like this, maybe put in a whole capful. I'll go ahead and I'm not going to actually put that in. But another thing that's really good for sprains is arnica oil, or just arnica. Now, if I was growing arnica plant, if I had the herb, which I did finally get myself some seed. I don't know why I didn't think to do it sooner. Arnica is very amazing. I sprained my ankle one time at a friend's, and she had some arnica salve, and she put it on there, and it was just hurting so bad. But by the time I left, then we hung out for a few hours, and by the time I left, I could actually walk on it without it hurting, and then the next day it was totally fine. And I've sprained my ankles and feet and fingers enough through all the stuff I've done to know what a sprain looks and feels like, and that was definitely a sprain, and I couldn't believe the arnica worked that quickly. So I'm just going to squirt a little bit of that in there, even though I don't really have a sprain. It could actually be sprained too, who knows. And so other options, let's see, another thing you could consider putting in there if you're going to soak your feet anyway is throw in a few marshmallow leaves, because that's going to help soften the skin. And I'm not going to do that this time, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go put this on my hot plate. This time of year we use electricity, but we use the hot plate plugged into our solar power, since we don't have our wood stove going on a regular basis in June. We do still build fires in June sometimes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this up to a boil, or to the point where it's very, very hot, and then I'm going to let it sit for a few minutes. Make sure that when you go to heat it up, that you push all your herbs down in there, and so everything can be getting in there and steeping. So I just turned this heat on, so you see I've got it on my hot plate here, and we'll get that heated up. And again, I'm just bringing it until where it's right at a boil, or just before it boils at least. And then I'm going to let it sit for a few minutes, and then I will move on to the next step. Okay, so my tea is ready. I've brought it to, I didn't bring it to a boil, I just got it to where it was steaming, very, very hot. Turn the heat off and then let it sit for a few minutes. And so now I'm going to pour it into the magnesium salt mixture. Now you can see how shallow this is. So again, if you're wanting to soak something higher up, you're going to want to double all this. If you need to soak maybe more of your top of your foot or your ankle, then you'll need this to be higher. And this would also be a great soak for a hand, but obviously you can use a different container for that. And there you have it. Now I'm ready for the soak, and the temperature feels pretty good. If you use about half and half, you know, really hot water to temperature, room temperature water, it should be just a little bit hotter than you can stand it. And that's where I like it. And then I'll just dip my foot in there and dip my foot in there and keep doing it until I'm to the point where I can actually put my foot in and then leave it. I'd rather do that than have it be just lukewarm or just warm where I can comfortably put my foot in there, because it cools down very quick. Of course, the deeper it is, the less quick it's going to cool down. And then a couple things I'm going to recommend is, first of all, make sure that you soak for at least a good 15 minutes. 15 to 20 minutes is going to be your standard. I like to go longer than that. But usually once I get to that point where it's about 20 minutes, the water has cooled down considerably. And so I like to reheat it. And yes, I just put it back in the pan, you know, fill that pan back up, heat the water, add it back to what I've got, and then start all over again. And then what I'm going to recommend is that you do that at least 2 times a day, morning and evening. And if you can swing it, try to do another soak in the middle of the day, and do that as long as you need to until whatever the ailment is better, and you know, the swelling is down and you can walk on it or use it for other things. It's totally safe. It's something that you don't have to worry about. We're not talking big pharma drugs here where you're going to OD on it. You're doing this topically. A lot of people will make a comfrey tea. I still haven't got to the point where I've done that yet, because there's so much controversy back and forth. I've heard from well-known herbalists on both sides of this issue. Some will say they don't recommend taking it internally. Others recommend that you do. And I'm guessing it's probably safe if people are doing it. It's like I would just like something consistent to know for sure. But maybe eventually I will try it. However, I just try to stick to things that I feel safer about. Even if you feel safe taking a comfrey tea, I don't recommend it something you do daily. I'd say only do it as long as you need it, maybe 1 cup a day. That's just my guess. I haven't looked into what other herbalists and stuff do and how often they take it. I do know old Alabama gardener Charles, he grows comfrey and he makes a tea out of his. And then just a quick note on comfrey itself is that if you're growing it, or if you're not growing it yet, when you do get some, I recommend planting it at the base of your fruit trees. It's really, really good for your fruit trees. That's where I grow mine. As you can see in these pictures right here, I have some, my older stuff is growing around our bigger peach tree, and then I have some newer plants that I put around the plum tree that we transplanted. But you have to kind of keep pruning it down, because it will get tall, it will get thick, and keep in mind too that if it's under the tree, the birds are going to poop all over it, because so I usually take off the poopy leaves and just throw them on the ground or throw them in the garden, because the comfrey is really, really good for your garden as well. And then take the rest in, and just in case I missed anything, rinse them off and all that. Spray them down with a little bit of homemade vinegar and rinse them off good before you dehydrate. And or before you make any kind of tea out of it, especially if you're growing it under your fruit trees. So as far as the soak, it's worked really good for me. I cannot believe how quickly my toe is healing up. Yes, it's still sore, you know, several days later. It's still red and purple, but the color is looking a lot better. I can walk on it, and I actually just found out today I can actually put my garden shoes back on again. Today's the first day I've been able to do that, because they would hurt too much. It's still just a little uncomfortable. I wouldn't be able to wear them for a long period of time. But I've had to settle for other shoes that were a lot more roomy in the toe, but I don't like doing my gardening in those. And so I'm hoping that I can get back into real soon here. I haven't tried it yet today, those brand new boots that I got at the Coastal store. And if you haven't seen the video of our little trip to the Coastal store, you guys might think it's silly, but I'll go ahead and link to it up here if you like that kind of thing. So anyway, well, I hope you enjoyed this video and that it helps you out. Again, this is for sprains, breaks, and bruises. And all these herbs I recommend. Some of them are going to vary depending on the actual need, but it's not going to hurt to throw them all in there, especially when it's a break. You've probably got a sprain and a bruise on top of it anyways. All right, one more thing I almost forgot to add, and that's why the lighting might look different, because it's been a couple hours since I shot the first part of this video, and that is the heat. I knew there was something I was forgetting. The reason why you want the water very, very warm and you want to soak it very warm for a long time is that the heat is going to help increase blood flow to the affected area, the area that needs healing, and that blood flow is going to be carrying oxygen and nutrients and all the things to that area to help it heal faster. And also it's going to help open up the pores so that you can absorb the magnesium from the Epsom salts and all the goodness, all the nutrients that are in those herbs that you're putting in there to help speed up healing. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed this video and that you learned something new and that you find this helpful. Thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.